comments with regards to our officers and their incredible performance in the recent weeks. And as you've mentioned, much has happened since the last report to the board in August. We have witnessed appalling scenes of violence and disorder across Northern Ireland, with members of our ethnic minority communities and police officers viciously attacked, with criminal damage and arson to property being perpetrated by cowards often hiding behind keyboards, inciting hatred through social media posts. Those responsible will claim some misguided alignment to a false right-wing narrative, associating the deaths of 3 beautiful little girls in Southport with illegal migration. These people, as I've said before, will not even know the names of Alice, Bibi and Elsie Dot. The violence and intimidation subsequently suffered by our diverse communities here in Northern Ireland was a disgrace. Everyone needs to call this out. This is criminality and this violence will not be tolerated. Since my appointment as Chief Constable last October, I've been meeting a number of leaders from our Muslim and diverse communities. This engagement came about as a result of previous racial attacks against these groups. The PSNI stands with our communities who were attacked. They add huge value to our society. They should hold their heads high, not bowed. It's very clear to me that many of those families have suffered years of abuse, and we need to use this disorder as a watershed moment in acknowledging and tackling racism. I've witnessed at first hand the fear and the despair these criminals during those nights of disorder brought to our Muslim and diverse communities. This will not be tolerated. There is no place for it, and we will police it as strongly as the law permits me to. As an organisation, we took a deliberately robust stance in dealing with the disorder, and that will continue. To date, including this morning 3 arrests in Derry, Londonderry, we've made 48 arrests in total, charging 35 people to court. Some 300 hours of video evidence have now been examined. As part of our response, 19 images of suspects have been released to the media, leading to the identification of a number of suspects. I'd like to personally thank the public for their assistance in that regard. We will do everything in our power to bring people to justice for these hateful crimes. It was incredibly disheartening to see so many young people involved. We do not want to criminalise young people. That is the last thing any of us want to do, and I personally most certainly do not want to do. But serious racist assaults and assaults against the police, hate crimes and arson where people could have been killed or seriously injured will be dealt with as robustly as possible using all the resources available to the PSNI. Having witnessed a number of nights of disorder in Belfast, we then saw even younger people involved in disorder and serious violence in Derry, Londonderry, following the Apprentice Boys parades. That Saturday, I witnessed a super family-oriented day of parades and events that were disgracefully hijacked and marred by scenes of violence and disorder that this time did not target our Muslim communities, but targeted our police officers. Rioting is not acceptable anywhere in the United Kingdom, and I will be clear that includes Northern Ireland. I will ensure the same strong response and arrest of those responsible occurs whenever this happens, including against those who incite it. I will be and need to be cautious with regards to prejudice about those cases now before the courts. However, we should all be concerned about images of adults directing children and encouraging them to riot. Charges have been brought for child neglect and child cruelty in that regard. I appealed then, and do so now, to parents and guardians of young people to take responsibility for the young people in your community when such events begin to emerge. Know where those children are. We have to decide what sort of society we want in Northern Ireland. The history of parades and tradition in Northern Ireland should be something that we celebrate. It should be a catalyst for bringing communities together, not separating them. It should be something that's celebrated worldwide. It should bring in enormous tourism. And these events are something that prevent all of that from happening. Most importantly, though, and in support of your comments, Chair, I must commend each and every officer and staff member for everything they did during this disorder, including, repeatedly, putting themselves in harm's way to keep our communities safe. The policing response from a public order perspective and the standing up of a thorough and relentless pursuit of those responsible was and remains world class. Put simply, in the face of this disorder, the men and women of the PSNI were outstanding. Notwithstanding the hugely difficult place we now find ourselves in from a resourcing perspective, which everybody, and I know everybody in this room, is alive to. There seems to be an underlying acceptance that public disorder in some quarters is allowed. This is not allowed. This violence is not allowed. We had some 40 police officers injured. I've spoken to each one of those injured officers and they're all thankfully going to be okay. But some suffered concussion and others broken bones. We could have had some much more serious injuries, not just to my officers, but to members of the public, including children. I will be seeking sentences, the harshest sentences I can for those assaults. It is most noteworthy that during the recent disorder, a fantastic police service was maintained beyond the disorder, supporting victims and communities across Northern Ireland, responding to a brilliant feeler event. The Mela, which you've mentioned, Chair, tens of thousands of people attended those events in safety with a fantastic public and community engagement approach from the PSNI. We've also continued as we've had to investigate murders, manage fatal road traffic accidents, allegations of child abuse, and many other issues within our communities that went beyond the disorder. I was delighted that the Prime Minister and the Secretary of State visited our Police College Garnival to meet injured officers and some of those ethnic minority community leaders affected by the disorder. They also found time to speak to our young student officers. It was incredibly heartening to listen to repeated tributes and accolades towards the PSNI from those community leaders. That should be recognised. It should be amplified. There was an overwhelming and recurring theme for support of the PSNI response from those communities to the disorder. They also each called for more resources for the PSNI. I've continually outlined the challenge of delivering policing resources in the face of a crippling funding position. This is not hyperbole. It's been an honest, professional assessment shaped by too many years of policing experience, and it's supported by repeated independent analysis. And I'm in the process of getting further evidence of the severity of our position. The PSNI can no longer stand up to the policing challenges we face without support from elsewhere. I had to mobilise the entire organisation and obtain mutual aid from the United Kingdom Policing with specialist public order support officers from Police Scotland. The Police Scotland officers were excellent and provided the resilience we needed. We couldn't have survived without them. We're indebted to our Scottish colleagues. Regarding the media reporting, following disclosure of a letter from the Permanent Secretary to me, I'll be brief on this and I'll make clear I will do everything I possibly can to secure a better funding settlement for the PSNI, because currently, as we all know, we're in a position we should not be in. And I disagree strongly with any rebuke about me approaching the Prime Minister. This is something I was entitled to do. I did not breach any protocol or any principle. The funding and effectiveness of the PSNI engages the interests and responsibilities of both the devolved and Westminster governments. I will communicate with both as I see fit, and I do not need authority or approval to do so. This unprecedented position that the PSNI is in as regards our resources and our budget absolutely demands that I do all I can as Chief Constable to find a way out of the mess that we're in with regards to our resourcing. And I want to assure you, the board, and everyone, that my responsibilities as both Chief Constable and Accounting Officer are at the forefront of my decision making. Crucially, and to reassure the public, I'm also fully aware of the importance of my operational independence and my obligations as Chief Constable in relation to Section 32 of the Police Northern Ireland Act of 2000. To protect life and property, to preserve order, to prevent the commission of offences, and to take measures to bring offenders to justice, all of which we've seen in the recent weeks. In drawing a line under the issue, I'm delighted to announce that I and my team are working collectively and positively with the Minister, the Permanent Secretary and the Department of Justice, preparing a business case for the recovery of the PSNI, police officer numbers. We must achieve 7,000 officers again as soon as we possibly can. That's going to take us some 3 years because of the condition that we're now in. This will still leave the PSNI 500 officers short of the 7,500 that every assessment suggests is the minimum that we should have. I am very clear that we should have 8,000 officers, and I'm supported by recent independent evaluations. I very much welcome and acknowledge the Minister and Permanent Secretary's support in drawing up this recovery plan, and we will do this together. I'm also delighted that the long-standing issue of an uplift of the revised environmental allowance for police staff has now been negotiated, and I know the board have been pivotal in supporting that, for which I'm very grateful. Police staff have received an interim payment in August, and we're working with the department to conclude this matter in September. This week I've spoken to the Minister and Permanent Secretary about this issue, and they share that endeavour. There has been an unacceptable delay in this since 2019. Finally, please, I want to thank the board for your support in recent weeks to my officers and to me with regards to ensuring that the lobbying that we're doing to get the proper funding for this organisation is listened to. It really is much appreciated. Thank you.